Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Mr. Wiz here. If you are new to this channel, we build video games and we have a lot of fun doing that. So I've already made an entire series on how to build simple games in MakeCode Arcade, and now we're working our way through extensions. We've already looked at the entire list of recommended extensions, but that's not all the extensions there are. We are now looking at those secret extensions that you can only download if you know about them. So I'm telling you all my favorites. Yesterday, we did one on one of my favorite extensions. It is the one that allows you to do stories. Adventure extension is what that one was called. We can do story-based games, choose your own adventure type games. So I already did a video on that. Today we're doing the Tilemap A-Star extension, which essentially allows you to create paths in your games. So this could be paths for NPCs or for enemies, basically ways for them to walk around your tile map. So it's called Tilemap A-Star, but I think of it as a path following extension. So with these secret hidden extensions that aren't on the recommended list, you can usually find them on forums and places of that nature. With these, the only way to put them in your game is to download the link into the search bar. It's the extension search bar. I'm going to go ahead and download and paste the link right here. And I will be sharing this link with you guys in the description of this video so you can download it into your programs. But it's called Arcade Tilemap A-Star. And once I search for it, it comes up right there. When I add it to my program, you will not see it in the toolbox. It does not appear as its own separate section. What it does is it adds to the tile map blocks you already have. So in scene, if you go down here where you have all the tile map stuff, there's these new ones right here called path following. Those are part of the A-Star extension. This is what allows you to have characters move around the screen in unique ways. I love this extension because it gives you a lot more control over what NPCs or enemies do in your game. I only found this extension because I had students asking me if there was a way to get an enemy to maybe patrol or walk around or something of that nature. So I discovered this extension while looking for ways to help them solve their problems. Okay, so I've already created a tile map here. I have a treasure chest in the middle, and I need to create guards that are going to protect this treasure chest. So that's going to be my goal. So let's go ahead and create our first guard. I might add more later. I'm going to give him a shield, and I'm going to place him in the corner. So remember to figure out the tile map row and location, the column and row. You just put your mouse over it and read the number. It says 2, 4. So I'm going to place him at 2, 4. There we go. So that places him right there. So now let's go look at the new blocks. My goal is to get this guy to protect the treasure chest, right? So I'm going to go down here. The first block is the one that creates the path. It tells you the starting tile and the finishing tile. The second block is what sets the sprite onto the path. It gets them starting to walk it, okay? So to create the path, it's just a bubble right now. We actually need to create it as a variable. So I'm going to make a variable. It looks like I already created one. I forgot about that. I was playing around with this a little bit before the video started. So this first one we'll call it path 1. And we need to set the starting and the finishing tile. The paths only work if the sprite is standing on the starting tile. If the sprite is standing anywhere else on the map, it's not going to work, right? So my sprite is standing on 2, 4, so my path needs to start at 2, 4. Now, where I tell him to go is completely up to me, right? So in this case, I just want him to walk to the opposite corner. I want him to walk right here, which is 6, 4. So I'm going to put 6, 4 there. And then I'm going to go back to the path following stuff. And I'm going to tell him right here that sprite called my sprite, which is his name right now because I didn't change it, needs to follow the path that is called path 1. And I can also use the plus sign here to set a speed for him. So right now his speed is 50, and that's actually just fine. So you just saw it. Let's see it again. There it is. And he just walks over there. So he starts at the one tile. He moves over to the other tile. Simple enough, right? Okay, now's where it gets kind of cool. Not only will they walk from one tile to another if you ask them to, but they will get there by any means possible. So if there are obstacles in the way, they will walk around it. They're intelligent enough to find a path. Let me show you what I mean by that. So let's say I put some trees here so he can't walk that way, and I make them walls so he can't walk into them. He will find another way. So he walks around them, right? And I could even get complicated with this. I could put here, let's make this area walls too, so he doesn't walk on that. And let's put this whole thing as a wall, just for the demonstration purposes. I am going to delete some of this in a minute. But now, if he wants to go from here to there, he can't go this way. He can't go anyway. The only way for him to do it is to walk all the way up and around. There's only one way for him to get where he needs to go. So let's see him do it. And he did it. Do you guys see how cool that is? So if you tell him to start on one square and go to another square, he will get there the fastest way that he can. If there's a short way to get there, he'll go the short way. But if the only way to get there is a long way, he'll go the long way. In fact, I had the students that needed help finding this. Once I showed it to them, and I showed them that trick where they'll always get to the end no matter which path they have to take, they built this game. It is a tower defense game, and they did such a good job with it. This was Colin and Adithya. They were 7th graders of mine last year. So what they did is they made a game where you have little towers you set up in the grass. Oh, there we go. And then the enemies walk the path to the end. And the way that they do this is literally with that path following extension. So he has the enemies start on this square and end at this square. But the way he gets them to stay in this path is they made all the grass into walls. So the only way they could walk was on the dirt path. Make sense? So pretty ingenious. By the way, I will share this link with you guys in the description if you want to check out their tower defense game. It's kind of hard, but it's also pretty fun. All right. So that's one cool thing about it, that the character will always find the shortest path. And if there's obstacles in the way, he will find a way. Now, what happens if there is no path? What happens if the path is completely blocked? Let's say this is a wall now. So now there's no way for him to get over there. What happens now? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So he'll only walk if there's actually a path available. So you need to make sure if you're using this extension that you are leaving a path for your characters. Okay, I'm going to undo a lot of that because my goal was to make security guards that walked around the building. So we're just going to leave. No walls there. He's going to walk in that straight line. Good, good, good. And now let's keep looking at the other blocks. So we used this block. We used this block. This is a condition that you can throw inside of a logic. So is there something that you want to only be true when they're following the path? You can put it in there. Or don't forget, in logic, you can also use the not bubble. So maybe there's something you want to only be true when they're not following a path, right? So you can use that if you need to. All right, down here we have percent sprite path completion. That's kind of cool. So maybe you want something to happen as they get closer to finishing their path. So for instance, in the tower defense game I just showed you, maybe they speed up at the end. So maybe you could put something like on game update, if percent sprite path completion is greater than 80%, you can increase their speed, right? Kind of cool stuff like that. So percent sprite path completion could be a fun little thing to use in your games. I'm not going to demonstrate that today, but you could definitely use it if you wanted to. I do want to talk about this. So this block is useful, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's harder than it looks, okay? On sprite of kind completes path. So I'm, of course, going to switch this over to enemy. So at first glance, you could just do this as something simple, so they just do something when they get to the end. Just to demonstrate, I'm going to put that the sprite will say done. Oh, I forgot to set him up as an enemy. My bad. He's not a player, he's an enemy. All right, let's try that again. There we go. So he did the task that I told him to do when he got to the end, and that's great. What I like to do, though, is I like to make my programs a little bit more complicated than that. I don't want him to just walk one path and be done. I want this guy to protect the treasure. I want him to walk around it. I want him to have a whole setup here. So what I'm going to do, and this is, like I said, unfortunately, this is harder than it looks, but I'm going to go ahead and create some more paths first off. All right, so let's create some more paths. And you know what? Let's move these paths up towards the beginning of the program so it's all together. So I want him to walk in a square, basically. I want him to walk the whole way around it. So for path 2, he's going to start on 6, 4, and he's going to finish at right there, which would be 6, 0. So he's starting at 6, 4, ending at 6, 0. I'm going to create a path 3. This will take me a few moments, but trust me, this is going to be useful for you guys when you want to start using this extension. So I'm going to have him start at 6, 0 and end at 2, 0. And then at path 4, I want him to start at 2, 0 and end back where he started, which was 2, 4. So I want my dude to walk all 4 paths, to walk in a loop and just keep walking that loop. And I want to do that using this complete path block. And the first couple times I tried to do this, I could not figure out how to get this to work correctly. So let me show you what I tried and what didn't work, and then eventually what I figured out would work, okay? So I thought this would be easy. I thought I'd be able to just throw a logic block in here and say if the tile map location of the sprite is equal to and then just put where he stopped. So 6, 4. Then I could have him start the next start path 2. By the way, the reason I keep on replacing my sprite with the sprite bubble is because I plan on adding more enemies in a minute. Okay, so yeah. So I thought that this would work because it does look like it should work. I don't really understand why it doesn't, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. So what it says here is that if the enemy completes the path at a location, if the tile map location of the player is equal to 6, 4, which it is right now, he's standing on 6, 4, then it should start path 2. He should start to follow path 2. But he's not doing it. You can tell he's not doing it. He finished the first path and he's not doing anything. He's not saying the word done. He's not completing the path. He's not doing anything, right? So why is this not working? I've also tried using the location bubble here, which normally would work in this sort of situation, but it doesn't work. So I don't know if this is a bug with the extension or if I'm just not using it correctly, but these things that would normally work don't work. So I had to figure out an alternative way of doing it, and it was more complicated than it really should be. What I had to do is I had to, instead of checking the location and comparing it to the column and row, I had to compare the individual column and the individual row. So I had to make a bigger logic with it using the and. And I'm going to show you how that works here in a second. So I created a bubble that said if, and this is the only way I could figure out to get it to work, right here, where it says location column, I put this tile map location of sprite inside of that. So let me try to get this going here. Oh, I forgot. I need to grab an equals. I told you there's a lot of little steps here. Okay. Boom, boom. I'm going to put that in here. and that in there. Okay. So then 6 for the first number. So if the tile map location of the sprite's column, so it's taking his position and it's only looking at the column number. So if the tile map position of the sprite's column number is equal to 6, and we're just going to duplicate this whole thing, put it on the second part, the tile map location of the sprite's row is equal to 4 was the number I was looking for. 4. Then do this, and let's see if it works. It worked. Now, why I had to go through all that, I'm not sure. It seems like the other way should have worked, but it didn't, and this does. So tile map location of sprite, which is, the player character. Well, it's not the player character, it's the enemy character. Tile map location of sprite's column equals 6, and tile map location of sprite's row equals 4. Then it's going to start path 2. And then to do the other paths, I just got to add some else ifs in here, right? I'm actually going to get rid of the else and just do else ifs. I'm also going to get rid of this done bubble because I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to duplicate this and make small changes to it, right? So now this path 2 finishes at 6, 0. So this is going to say 6, 0. So once they finish path 2, they're going to start path 3. You can kind of see where I'm going with this part, right? Duplicate that, put that in there, and then path 3 ends at 2, 0. So once they get to 2, 0, they will start path 4. And then duplicate that, put that there. Path 4 ends at 2, 4. So once they get to 2, 4, they will start path 1 all over again. Let's see if it works. All right, he's gone one whole way around, and he's going to keep going. We have a patrolling guard. Congratulations. Now, keep in mind, obviously, he's not actually animated right now. It would be very easy to improve this program with the animation extension, which I've already talked to you guys about, and we could throw that on there, and then he'd walk up, and he'd walk left, and he'd walk down, and he'd walk right, and his animation would fit his moving. So, yeah, path following, pretty straightforward stuff. And then if I wanted to put more guards on here, it would be easy enough to do. I would just have to create another guard and give him a starting position that is on one of these paths. So let's start him in the top right corner, which we said was 6, 0. So we'll start him at 6, 0. And we're going to, which is the starting position of path number 3. So we'll start him at path 3. Voila. Now I have 2 patrolling guards. And keep in mind, I went kind of advanced with this using 4 paths. You could just as easily have done just 2 paths and had them walk back and forth. So maybe your game has a door that you want somebody to guard, so he just walks back and forth. Or maybe it's a hallway, and all you want the guard to do is to stay in that hallway. So he might walk all the way down the hall, turn around, and then walk all the way back. That's 2 paths. And you could have him do that over and over again using this technique. So this is path following. And keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, you can always throw obstacles in there to mess with them if you want to, and they will find their own routes, right? So if I did that, they would both walk around the bushes just to continue on to their path. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show you about that. Once again, I will put a link to this extension in the description of this video. I will also put a link to the game that my students made, that tower defense game, in the description, so you guys can check out both of those. If you learned something new today, please click that like button. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe. There's a lot more videos that are coming. I have just started working on these secret extensions, and there's a lot more that I love that I want to share with you guys. If you build something that uses this extension, please click that share button, copy the link, put it in the comments, because I want to see your games, okay? All right. Until next time, thanks for sticking around. Have a great rest of your day.